Hello and welcome to this very special show as we bid adieu to the year that's gone by and look ahead to the new year. Now, calling 2020 a challenging year is perhaps an understatement. The unprecedented COVID pandemic impacted lives in unimaginable ways. COVID warriors fought the COVID battle at the front lines, risking their own lives day after day. On one hand, the battle against the pandemic was being fought, and on the other hand, the lockdown itself left so many high and dry, without jobs, without money, hundreds of kilometers away from their homes. But amidst all this darkness and despair, emerged some rays of hope, ordinary citizens who went the extra mile and more, and did extraordinary things to help those in need. There are hundreds of unsung heroes we've seen over this past year who helped so many in need. Today, I'm being joined by 5 such citizens who took it upon themselves to become saviors for many. I want to first introduce the 5 who we have today with us. Ravi Shankar from Feed the Need NGO. We've got Kristen Rego, who's a philanthropist. Rashmi Rani, who's a teacher. Deepak Singh from Robin Hood Army, which is an NGO. And Reshma Cooney, who's a fashion designer who also went that extra mile. All 5 of them have their own stories to tell about what they did, the challenges that they overcame to do what they did this past year. And I'm going to get to all of that in just a bit, but I also want to first tell you this story about Ravi Shankar and his wife Lata, who are from Bengaluru, who stepped up to feed the needy with free home-cooked food. For many, Ravi and Lata were a saving grace. Take a look at their story first.
ಕಷ್ಟನೇ ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು, ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಕೂಡ ಕಷ್ಟ ಅದ, ಹಣಕಾಸು ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕಷ್ಟ ಬಿಲ್ದಿದ. ಇವಾಗ ಈ ಲಾಕ್ಡೌನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದರಿಂದ ಯಾರು ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗೋಕ್ಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಸ್ಸೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟೇಕ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
Arsu is one of the many victims of the COVID-induced lockdown that was announced in March this year. Lakhs of people like Arsu did not get a morsel of food for the initial part of the lockdown. However, here is a story of a couple that set out to change that.
Well, year after year, we talk about the struggle for food in a country like India. We're seeing how lakhs of people die due to starvation every year. And this year, the situation has only been worse owing to the pandemic, the lockdown. People were unable to, even get 2 square meals a day. And at a time like this, it is, in fact, several Good Samaritans who came forward and did their bit to help those who needed it the most. Well, we're talking about a power couple in Bengaluru, Ravi Shankar and Lata, who've, been preparing meals in their very house and going ahead and serving it to those who needed it the most at the crisis hour.
Ravi and Lata, a couple passionate about helping the needy, started to prepare nutritious food at home and began distributing it on the very first day of the lockdown itself.
On the time of lockdown, one thing what we noticed is there's not much hotels being opened, right? So I was worried about the people who are roadside sheltered. See, having money, getting food is different, but having money, also you can't get food those days, right? It was been very difficult. So I thought, okay, the day no one was aware of how many days it was going to get locked down or things. Initially it was 21 days, then it went to 3 months and all. So I thought, okay, let me start cooking and feeding people who are roadside shelter, especially who are needy.
For many of the families that the couple fed, the breadwinners were rendered jobless. Little children were almost pushed to the point of starvation. For these families, Ravi and Lata were their saving grace.
ನಮಗೇನು ಸಹಾಯ ಆಯ್ತಂದರೆ ಅವರು ನಮಗೆ ದೇವರ ಥರ. ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಟ್ಲ್ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಲ್ಲ ಒಟ್ಟಾಯಿಸಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಡ್ಯಾರೆಲ್ಲ ಸುಟ್ಟಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬದುಕೋದು ಅಂತ ಇರೋ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ದೇವರ ಥರ ಬಂದು ಈ ಥರ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಾವು ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಊಟ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಮರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಿನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನೀವು ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ತುಂಬ ಮಾರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಈ ಥರ ನಾವು ಬಂದು ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಸರಿ ಏನೋ ದೇವರ ಥರ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸರಿ ಸರ್ ನಾವು ಊಟ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ.
ಊಟಗಳು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನನಗೆ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬುಕ್ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಊಟ ಬಂದು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಟೈಮ್ಗೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಿಸಿ ಊಟನೇ ತರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬೆಡ್ಶೀಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಿನ್ನೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಅವಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಲು ಮತ್ತು ಜ್ಯೂಸು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂಕಲ್ಗೆ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್.
Even as it has been a few months since the lockdown was lifted, Ravi and Lata continue to feed these families every day.
Feeding someone is a great deal. When you see them receiving the food with that happiness and you look at the eyes, right, it's like even crores of rupees won't get you that happiness, you know.
Well, Ravi Shankar, let me start with you here. You started doing this on the first day of the lockdown itself. My first question really is what prompted you? Because obviously we didn't really know at that point in time what the extent of the lockdown was going to be, what the repercussions are going to be. But what gave you that sort of foresight to say that this is going to be an issue?
First thing, what I thought is very important thing was food. Basically, we know more than corona, hunger will kill a person. That's what the situation. Yes. We have seen a lot of people who have been into this issues. And we thought, okay, let us do some justice. And we see it's something made us to continue our journeys, because previous to this also we used to feed people who are roadside sheltered. So. Okay, that made us to understand that who has a requirement, like people who have roadside shelter, needy, and that particular pandemic days every individual were in some kind of a requirements like essentials and other things. Okay, then I thought, okay, we have to step out. There's no point in sitting at home and worrying or thinking about others who are struggling really outside. And we thought, okay, we have to do some justice. Yes, we have also taken safety measures and standards, whatever has to be done. But we more or less thought more about the people who are being hungry, because we have seen with our own eyes like how many people, how people are suffering. So we stepped out. We started cooking from the day one of lockdown. We didn't even know that it will extend for 21 days first initially. Yes. And then it extended to 3 months, and it was keep on extending because of the requirements and because of the numbers was getting increased, and there was no much job opportunities for people too. And initially as we started, we recognized people, and we just traveled. As we traveled, we keep on meeting new people, new families. That's what I can say.
I also want to go across to Dashmi as well here. Dashmi, of course, food was one aspect. But so much more as the lockdown kept getting extended, the kind of troubles that people faced in getting essentials, and that's where you really stepped in. Tell us what is it that made you think that this is something that you need to do?
Basically, I'm a teacher and civic leader. So it's my responsibility and it's my duty to do a small bit for the society. So I decided, as you all know, that courier was not there, the post office was not there, and many of the people were suffering from many far distances. There are a lot of problems for the medical service. So here, the emergency medical service was very much needed. So at that time, I got the assignments as a biker. As a biker, I thought it's a good opportunity and it's a small service to the society. Then I used to get a message from the helpline, Government of Karnataka. Then every day morning, I used to carry the medicines and those who are needy for the elderly person far from the village, remote villages where no courier, no post office was there, postal service was not there. And also the people were day-to-day life, they used to take some of the patients, old persons, they used to take medicines like diabetic patient, then some of the cancer patients are there. And also many of the child, small baby, newborn baby, they too need a medicine and all. It was a pleasure to do a small work by using my passionate biking.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm sure so many people must have really thanked you for doing what you did. Deepak, coming to you here, the entire issue with respect to the way we saw the massive migrants crisis over this past year was perhaps the one thing that really stood out as far as this year is concerned. And you managed to help a lot of those migrants who were left stranded, who were left without money, without jobs. Tell us a little bit about that.
See, basically lockdown was announced on 23 of March, and from 26th of March we first did the drive with the help of Navi Mumbai police and the corporation people in Kharghar, and we posted on the social media. After posting this, lot of people started to contact us that these people are distributing food, and it became like every day we were out and we were distributing food. In that time, we came in contact of many migrant workers, many people who were stuck around Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, everywhere. And they were asking only one thing, sir, आज तो खाना दे रहे हो, हमको कुछ भी करके एक बार घर भेज दो, ताकि हम लोग वहाँ पे सुकून से फैमिली के साथ रह सकें. This was their statement every time. And while distributing food, we reached around 50,000 families across Mumbai and nearby areas and Navi Mumbai, as well as we went till Palghar and the pain areas, and from there also we were getting requests ki sir do something and try to help us with the means transport to reach our villages. And when the government started the train, so we were having number and we tried to contact them, and we contacted them and we asked them to come and register, and with the help of police we sent them to the villages, and while sending them we managed to give them food, water, and it was a time where they were the people who were in the need कि कोई तो आगे मुझे help कर दो.
Yes.
Food was like the first and foremost thing for them. And with the means food तो ऐसा था कि उनको अगर हम खाना देने जा रहे हैं तो अगर 10 के लिए लेके जा रहे हैं तो 100 लोग लाइन लगा रहे हैं. तो in this way we helped them, and our team across Mumbai as well as across Maharashtra, you can say, we fed around more than 20 lakhs people. Simultaneously, the much needed thing was like कि उनको घर जाना है, और हम लोग ने उनको घर पे भेजने के लिए जितना भी हो सकता था गवर्नमेंट की मदद से कोशिश किया और उनको भेजे. And in this period of time, Mumbai police has worked really hard. I have seen them, so we must appreciate them also, because without them this was not possible.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the frontline COVID warriors are the ones that we have to thank so much for the past year, the way they sort of, fought at the front lines, the battle against COVID. But also, today we have, sufficient PPE kits, we have sufficient masks, but just for our viewers as well, just to remind you, in the beginning of when the lockdown happened, when COVID hit, we didn't have this kind of PPEs, we didn't have masks, there were caps that were put on masks, there was hoarding of masks, all of that was happening, and then slowly the supply sort of began to happen more and more. And here our next two guests who we have today are actually helped in ensuring that entire part here. In fact, Kristen is one of them who made face shields and PPE kits and distributed them to those who were fighting at the front lines. Kristen, this is also something that was so important at that point in time. What did you think of and how did you come to this, idea that this is where you need to step in?
We started by distributing food, giving food to the senior citizens of this. While doing this, we kept on reading in the news, that PPE kits are extremely exorbitant prices, lack of PPE. And I had a small workshop where I had about 4 staff working with me. And I just called them, I spoke to them, I asked them, let's start doing something, let's start making some face shields, because that was the only thing that we could do, given the limited resources that we had. And after I spoke to my brother, I spoke to my girlfriend, everyone, and I told them, this is what we need to do, can you all come on board and help me out? And yeah, we decided that we're going to make these face shields and sell them to people who require them. But for every one bought, we would say we would donate one. That was the initial plan of how we're going to do it. We were going to make 10,000, give it out. But slowly along the way, when we started it, people just started giving us money and saying, boss, we don't want these face shields, take it and just donate it to. So that's when we started, we just started making face shields, donating it to hospitals, calling up hospitals, finding out what requirements they have. going around, catching all the police personnel at Nakabandis, distributing face shields to them.
Reshma, similarly for you, I mean, you're a fashion designer, and obviously when the lockdown hit, everything came to sort of a complete standstill. But you sort of converted what you were good at and what you had the access and resources to, and started making masks. Tell us about that.
Yes, actually, I have 150 laborers working for me who come from different part of India. Like, they are from Calcutta, Assam, Orissa, like lots of places. And even from Bangalore, I have a lot of women laborers, who are polio infected and lots of problems they have already. So I didn't feel that they will go and spend on a mask. So that's when the idea came in. We have a lot of fabrics, extra fabrics which are wasted while making garments and all that. And as I supply to big groups, so we have 15,000, 20,000 meters of fabrics every time in stock in the warehouse. So I said, why not utilize it for a right cause? And we started making the face masks initially for our laborers. And eventually when the lockdown just happened, it was not predicted that something like this is going to happen. We just made the mask thinking about the COVID thing, the corona is getting, is spreading. And then eventually when in my apartment and the vegetable vendor, everybody's security, everybody wanted the mask. And that's how we started making masks in bulk. We took government permission to run our factories. We had volunteers. We used to receive calls from villages, nearby villages like Tumkur, Hubli, everywhere, for people in the villages who didn't have facility to get the mask. And that's how we started making thousands of masks, and the volunteers started going around places and distributing it to people. And then there was a problem. We didn't even have elastic. Then I had to contact a shoe manufacturing unit who had bulk elastic. I requested them to give us elastic, and somehow we managed to sail through this phase. And I think I've utilized it in the right way, and I'm happy that I got to help so many people, like the poor people,
Yes.
the vegetable vendors, the building security, and lots. Like we have helped. We tried to distribute it to whoever has reached us during this time. Even yesterday, I got a call from Telangana that we require 500 masks over there, which we have just shipped it today. So there are lots of people who cannot afford it till now, and basically people don't know how to manufacture it. It has to cover, like there has to be 3 layers, and it has to give protection to the people. You cannot wear anything and everything. And N95 mask, I wanted that people should use it for the frontline workers, the doctors, the COVID infected. So that's how the fabric mask, I think, was of a great use during COVID time.
Yeah, absolutely, Reshma. But let's, of course, now take a look at Krissen's story. In fact, this is a story of Krissen and the trio who came together, who made face shields and masks when there was a shortage of PPE kits, and it was a growing concern in the lockdown. The trio made at least 50,000 face shields in the span of 4 months, and distributed them to healthcare workers in hospitals and police stations across the city. Take a look.
It takes just one person to make a difference if their heart is in the right place, and that's what 30-year-old Krissen Rego represents. A Mumbaikar, he not only made face shields during lockdown but also provided employment to migrant workers.
Realized that PPE was becoming a shortage. There was a lot of PPE that was required by hospitals and government staff. A lot of doctors, nurses getting sick because of the coronavirus. And I read in the news where face shields, PPE, the coverall suits and all were getting really expensive. And that's when I thought about it. Let's see what we can do to help these staff. Like the best thing that we could make with the limited amount of resources that we had was face shields.
In the month of April this year, he set up a workshop at Corona Garden in Bandra to produce face shields. Initially, only 3 of them started making it. But gradually, the number swelled, and 25 migrants who had lost work due to lockdown joined in. Together, they made 400 face shields on the first day and gave it to healthcare workers. But this journey had some hurdles too. Procurement of raw materials remained a big challenge as shops were closed and supplies were fast running out of stock.
This virus properly, and even once they came, even we had to go, they would not deliver it over here, so we had to drive down to wherever they are located So along the way also, we had to explain to the cops what are we trying to do here, and so procuring the material was a challenge.
In the span of 4 months, they were able to make 50,000 such face shields, and this came in at a time when masks, sanitizers and face shields were the need of an hour. The requirement was so huge, specifically in hospitals and police stations across the city.
Once we completed the mark of about 10,000, we realized that the demand for it was more, because we kept calling up hospitals and police stations, and they kept getting back to us and telling us that the demand for it was very much in need, and they were not able to procure the same.
Word of mouth, WhatsApp messages and social media posts ensured that the news about face shields developed by Chrisen and his team reached many people. From Assam to Gujarat, his face shields found users in different parts of the country. With video journalist Nitin Fattare and Disha Shah, Tanima Biswas, Mirror Now.
Chrisen, coming to you, what would you say, were some of the major challenges you faced? Because you started with just 3 of you, and then obviously there were a lot of workers around, migrant workers, who also then came and joined you. But what were the challenges that you faced, whether it was procuring the material, whether it was, funding of the material and distribution? Where did you face those hurdles?
Well, in the start, first procuring the materials was a big task for us. It took us close to at least around about a week to start off by getting material, because we needed to know where to source the material. Like, we kept calling people, asking them from, if they could give us the material, and they were like, no, we are closed. Finally, we managed to get a few stationaries to open up their shops. We took all the stock of the face shield plastic sheets that they had. That's how we managed to convince them to open their shop. Then the thing started with how to get the sponge, and then we went to the mattress guys. We tried to call them, convince them again the same way, we would take large quantities. And we kept promising these large quantities, and then it became like, now how do we fund this project, So then I kept telling my friends and family, guys, I need money because this is what we're going to do. I started by funding it myself. Then my brother and everyone came along, my entire family came along, funding. And then I realized that, boss, all these funds are running out, we need more. And I started asking family, friends. And that's how we kept moving and kept the ball rolling. Then after that, it was just sending out a WhatsApp message to these guys saying, hey guys, we are running out of material and these people need more. And the funds would keep rolling in. So a lot of people helped us with the funds. In the start, it was difficult. Procuring of material, once people realized why we were taking this material, they were always ready to help us. So, big thanks to these guys.
Dashmi, I want to come to you here. In terms of, the challenges that you perhaps faced, it would have been difficult, considering that you were, biking around during a lockdown, visiting so many people. How was that whole experience? Obviously, you would also have thought about your own safety as well.
Of course, you all know that during summertime, hot summertime, the road, the empty road and the no shops were there. Usually the bikers, when we rode on the road, we have some tea break or some food or snacks break. But on the road, there was no break for me. Continuously, I was riding. And only the petrol pump was allowed. And that too, they used to serve 1 liter or the 2 liter petrols and not more than that. And I used to show the Corona Warrior card, and I used to tell the medicines I have to, emergency medicine I have to supply, I used to request them. Then only they used to fill my full tank petrol. Then afterwards, all along I was alone, and after that I used to take care myself. I used to carry all my, along with the parcel of the medicine, I used to carry my own food from the home, and also the hot water and this first aid kit I used to carry. So this was a lot of problem I used to face on the road, on the national highway road or some villages, remote villages. There was a lot of problem for me. I have to face it.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, let's take a look at Dashmi's story from Karnataka. Her undaunting courage and sheer grit to help those in need of essentials during the lockdown period is sure to strike a chord with all of us. In fact, this is her story, who also aided the Karnataka government during the lockdown, traveling hundreds of kilometers, like she was just explaining, on her bike to run errands for all those in need. Take a look.
Well, as we bid adieu to the year 2020 and hope that the year 2021 brings in better hope, better luck for all of us, it's time to just look back and thank all those COVID warriors who've gone that extra mile, who worked tirelessly for hours together to ensure our safety. And we're bringing to you today the story of Dashmi, a biker who's travelled thousands of kilometers on her bike across the state of Karnataka just to deliver essential medicines to the needy, to senior citizens, to little children, and to all those in need at the crisis hour.
The lockdown was harsh on all of us. Heartbreaking stories were making headlines across the country. That's when Dashmi decided to do something about it, as she couldn't watch people suffer. On the first day of lockdown itself, she got hooked to the Karnataka government's COVID-19 helpline and started to deliver medicines wherever the need arose.
Hello. Yeah, Dashmi here. Okay, yeah, I can deliver the medicine. It takes 20 minutes from there, and again for your location it will be 1 or 2 hours it will be there.
A teacher by profession and a biker by passion, the lockdown did not silence the roar of her motorcycle. In fact, it got her travelling to villages across Karnataka and running errands for senior citizens. But the journey was not easy, as she encountered several challenges along the way.
Many challenges are there. So during lockdown time, as usual you all know that the shops was not there, hotels were not there, and I used to go around, I used to carry my things all in my bag, the hot water, I used to take care myself first, then only I can serve for others. So I used to take care all the lunch and all the hot water. And the assignments, usually it will be 200 kilometer or 100 kilometer. There on the highway, it was hot summer during that April and May month.
Among the many places that Dashmi visited was Gandhi Old Age Home in Bengaluru. During the lockdown, she delivered essential medicines, soaps, sanitizers, masks, medicines, diapers, and disinfectants to this old age home. Even months after the lockdown, the senior citizens still remember her act of kindness and accept her as their daughter.
Very, very happy, madam. We are all very, very happy. For which we are giving everything, fix this thing, daily providing what we all need. Paste, this thing, toothpaste, what all daily needs we are using. The same thing was given by madam.
ಬೈಕಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಾಮಾನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆಯಿತಾ? ನಮಗೆ ಏನಾನ ಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ತಂದು ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ನಮಗೆ ಖುಷಿನೇ ಆಗೋದು. ನಿಮ್ಮಂಥವ್ರು ಬಂದು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಖುಷಿನೇ ಆಯ್ತೈತೆ. ನೀವು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ಅಲ್ವಾ?
ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಕೋವಿಡ್-19 ಒಳಗೆ ಏನೇನು ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕೋ ಆರೋಗ್ಯ ಕಾಯ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿದರು. ಹಿಂಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ತುಂಬ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಆ ಟೈಮಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಓಡಾಡೋದೇ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿರ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ಅಂಥದ್ರಲ್ಲೂ ಅವ್ರ ಪಾಪ ತಮ್ಮದು ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದೇನೋ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಮ ಆಶ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಹೋದ್ರಲ್ವಾ, ಅದು ನಮಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಯಿತು. ಹಿಂಗಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಥರ ಇದ್ದರೆ.
For Dashmi, the satisfaction of helping senior citizens is unparalleled.
Obviously, it's an inner peace is there in me and also satisfied. So doing something small, those who are in need, I know the feel of that the people are urging and people are waiting for their daughters and their family. So during that time when I went, and they'll bless me as their own children, and that's enough for the lifetime.
We at Mirror Now thank all Good Samaritans like Dashmi and wish them the very best in their endeavors.
Well, that of course was Dashmi's story, and she shared with us before that about the challenges that she faced. And I want to take that same question on challenges to Ravi Shankar as well. Ravi, what would you say were the biggest challenges that you faced? Whether it was, did you have any kind of trouble at all collaborating with the authorities? Obviously, given the strict lockdown, trying to figure out where the food is needed the most. What was it like?
First thing, we approached a nearby police station and we explained about the situation, and we also told them that what we want to do. And initially there was no any kind of a passes were allowed, and they said that okay, with the safety measures you can travel, and you should be very sure that you have to maintain distance and you should not gather crowds and other things. So initially we started and for a week that was not an issue at all. But as the numbers was getting increased, we had to face a lot of issues, because initially we started only with the two-wheeler. We used a two-wheeler. With the support of two-wheeler, we used to distribute. As the numbers getting increased, on a daily basis we used to distribute more than 350 plus food packets. So picking up all those things in a two-wheeler, two people to travel for a long journey, because we used to travel somewhere like 10 to 15 kilometers one side, so in search of people, because not all the people were in one location, so everybody were in search of people. So that was very much difficult. And as days passed by, we also take safety precautions, because people who are sitting on the roadside, who are a beneficiary, they were also in need of some kind of a safety measures. So we had to carry a lot of sanitizers at the same time, because we have to use the sanitizer for them also, when receiving the foods and other things. So initially it was a very tough time. I know there was less of provision, because it's only me and my wife who was doing it. I started with whatever I had, and then there are a lot of people, not a lot of people, there are well-wishers who came forward and they had helped us out with some provisions to feed the needy, because in numbers getting increased. And travel was the biggest challenge. That was a very big challenge for us. And then we started, we got an approach at auto driver, and he helped us out for a couple of more days, till the lockdown was coming to a control. And we had faced a lot of challenges. Only thing is that transport was a big issue, and I have to really appreciate our frontline workers. When we approached them and when we told them this is what our plan is like, we want to distribute the essentials like provision and other things, they really supported us. Initially we didn't even had proper utensils, so I had to borrow some utensils from people who stays nearby, and you have to make a lot of different mixtures and get it ready, pack it. Packing was the biggest issue, because again I have to take help of my mother, my son, myself, my wife, because it was not a great idea to invite someone to home also. Every day we used to wake up somewhere early in the morning by 3:34 a.m. Start cutting vegetables and getting ready for the breakfast, and cook, pack it, leave, distribute, come back, again start cooking for the afternoon.
Ravi, some of the points that you mentioned, perhaps, one doesn't realize until you're actually doing it. Nobody knows, the things that you require to pack something, utensils, during a time of a lockdown, all of those small things which you take for granted. Deepak, let me come to you here. Similar to Ravi, you also had, the same kind of experience in terms of what you did, but what were the challenges that were topmost on your mind that you faced while while going ahead with what you were doing?
See, first and foremost challenge was like keeping myself safe as well as people. As we were coming in contact with thousands of people daily, thousands of migrant workers and the homeless people, we were feeding, we were talking to them, we were trying to help them. So it was the first and foremost challenge, like we have to keep safe during that time. Hospitals में bed नहीं है, एक और डर, friends and all were asking, भाई थोड़ा संभल के. There is the situation, you know about the Mumbai, the corona cases was increasing very rapidly, and even my society, my friends, they all were worried कि this guy is going out and he is coming in contact of so many people. So the first and foremost challenge was like safety, and secondly was like कि the situation was really bad. People were really starving. उनको बहुत ज़रूरत थी, एक help की ज़रूरत थी, food की ज़रूरत थी. They were jobless. They were not having proper food. I can give you one example. There was 15 workers in Kharghar. They were stuck in a building. They came for the painting from Jharkhand, and these people were like they were having no money, no food. We feed them for 3 months. कंटिन्यूसली मीन्स ऐसा था कि अगर हम खाना जाके दे रहे हैं तो ही वो खाना खा सकते थे, वरना उनको भूखे सोना पड़ता था. तो इन दिस वे एवरी डे वी हैव टू सर्व लाइक दिस 100 of people daily, and when the train started we tried to send them by train, and the big challenge was like कि train was limited and people was so many, मीन्स ये समझ में नहीं आता था कि किसको हेल्प करें, किसको हम पहले प्रेफरेंसेस दें, and how to make the keep the social distancing, और उनको किस तरह से हम लोग properly channelize करके उनको भेजें. So it was a very difficult situation, and challenges was like every day was challenge कि आज हम लोग ने 10 लोग को बोला कि यार आज चलो रांची की ट्रेन है या यहाँ की ट्रेन है, आप लोग रेडी रहना. वो 10 के बदले वहाँ पे 100 लोग आ जाते थे, सर हमको भी जाना है. फिर अगेन वी हैव टू मेक सम प्रोविजन फॉर देम. सो इट वाज ए वेरी टफ सिचुएशन कि यू हैव टू सेलेक्ट कि किसको भेजना है, किसको नहीं भेजना, और कैसे उनको चैनलाइज करना है. अगेन वी वर कॉल फॉर गेटिंग द कॉल फ्रॉम, बिकॉज आवर नंबर वाज गॉट सर्कुलेटेड टू मेनी पीपल फ्रॉम मेनी इंटीरियर एरियाज लाइक अलीबाग एंड कोलाड, इन दिस एरियाज विच इज रूरल एरियाज. some of the industrial workers and small scale industrial workers and site workers was there. तो उनका भी कॉलर, सर हमको भी जाना है, हाउ टू गो, प्लीज़ गाइड अस. देन वी हैव टू कोऑर्डिनेट देम, एंड उनको बताना पड़ता था कि आज इधर से ट्रेन है, आप यहाँ से चले जाइए. तो इट वाज लाइक एक डिफ़िकल्ट सिचुएशन. ऐसा था कि लोगों को हेल्प करना है, लेकिन हेल्प भी ऐसा होना चाहिए कि सेफ रख के हेल्प करना. दिस वाज लाइक एवरी डे सिचुएशन. एंड उस दौरान तो ऐसे हो गए थे कि सोसाइटी के कुछ लोग तो बोलते यार ये बंदा ही सबसे पहले कोरोना लेके आएगा, दिस पर्सन इज गोइंग टू मेनी ऑफ द पीपल, एंड इसको थोड़ा सा संभाल के देखो, नहीं तो ये सबको कोरोना फैला देगा. और इसी वजह से मेरे साथ काफ़ी लोग बात नहीं करते थे. इवन कीपिंग सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग, मेनी पीपल वर कीपिंग देमसेल्फ अपार्ट. सो चैलेंजेस वाज मेनी, एंड बस एक ही थिंग माइंड में था कि पीपल आर इन रियली नीड, एंड एज ए वॉलंटियर्स वी हैव टू हेल्प दिस पीपल, एंड वी ट्राई टू हेल्प देम. And with the one slogan, the ab nahi to kab.
Let's in fact take a look at Deepak's story now. The pandemic, subsequent lockdown halted the lives of so many, widespread job losses, migrant exodus. The challenges were never ending. Robin Hood Army, the NGO, not just served food to over 50,000 migrants, but also helped them return to their homes. Take a look.
March 24th, 2020. A nationwide lockdown was announced to fight COVID. India paused, and the pandemic started to control our lives. Daily wagers, mostly migrant workers, were the worst hit. Left in the lurch with no work and no money, they started walking back thousands of kilometers to their villages from the big cities. Hungry, barefoot, and heartbroken, their pain became the national headline. That's when Robin Hood Army, an NGO, stepped in.
Our numbers were circulated, and through the numbers, people were contacting us. At 12 a.m., maybe at 2 a.m., people used to call us and they used to literally cry that we don't have food. So basically, most important part was migrant laborers. They were not getting food. And since they did not have proper documentation, they did not know how to go out and collect food, it was very difficult for them to find food. So we were going along with them and we were providing food to them.
Robin Hood Army is an NGO based out of Navi Mumbai and has 50,000 active members across the country. During the lockdown, they fed more than 50,000 needy people in different parts of the country, from providing basic essentials in slum areas to helping migrant workers. In fact, when the government started special train services for migrants, the Robin Hood Army, along with the police, helped at least 40,000 of them with their bookings.
They were really scared. They were like कि यहाँ पे हम मर जाएंगे तो हमको कोई पूछने वाला भी नहीं है. Who will help us? And there were like news कि बेड नहीं है. People are not having hospitals. तो इस ये लेकर के और भी उनको डर था. They were getting call from their villages. उनकी family का please आ जाओ. And they were also scared. So ये इनके पास एक ऐसा था कि बस कुछ भी करो हमको घर भेज दो. इसमें चैलेंजेस यही था कि वो बहुत डरे हुए लोग थे और हमारे पास चैलेंजेस ये था कि क्राउड बहुत ज़्यादा था और मैनेज करने के लिए वॉलंटियर्स बहुत कम थे.
When the entire country was under lockdown, they were the ones out there on the streets helping people who were in need. Be it from distributing food to helping migrants go back to their home states. These are the stories that should really make us proud. These are the stories that should inspire us. With video journalist Nitin Fattere, this is Disha Shah for Mirror Now.
Well, that of course was Deepak's story, but I also want to go across to Reshma right now as well. Reshma, your challenges, what was it that you found difficult in trying to achieve the end that you were trying to achieve?
See, initially when we started in March when the lockdown was just announced. That time we had a difficulty in manufacturing the mask. The idea was there, we had to manufacture, but how? The government hadn't given permission that time to open the factories. So we had to take the fabrics and we were trying to give the fabrics to our workers who can sit at home, who had machines at their houses so that they can manufacture the mask. Then we had fabrics, but there were no elastic. Now what to do? That was the next challenge, So I started calling lots of people, lots of factories, garment factories, shoemaking factories, elastic manufacturers, whoever I knew I could reach in Bangalore. And there were few people who said, I have 100 meters, I have 50 meters, like that. So I arranged two people from my staff. We went, they used to go in bike, they used to collect all this small, for 10 meters also, 20 meters also of elastic from people, and they used to come back. And then we used to make sure that the fabric, we cut it and we send it to each of our workers. There were 4 people who used to make the mask initially in March from their houses. And we had to educate them that they do not have to touch the mask, they have to wear gloves and make the mask and all that, So everything, after they making the mask and they used to send it to me, I used to keep it open in the terrace for at least 36 hours, like 2 days, before we pack them and dispatch it. So we had one nurse was there who used to help me, who used to come home and help me in packing it. So initially in March, it was very difficult for me to, manufacture the mask because there was no help, like we didn't know whom to reach because it was a strict lockdown and there was no COVID ward room that time. Everything started moving from April. Afterwards, in April, we started getting government permission to get 3 of our workers in our manufacturing unit and start off making it, but everybody had to sit in a distance and all. We had to go pick them up, get them to the office and to our unit, and that's how they used to make it. They used to sleep here. And later, another challenge what came in were people, after giving the mask, there were a lot of people who wanted to pay rents, house rents and all that, and they didn't have the money. So when we were giving the mask, that was the other thing which came into our mind, that how will these people survive, because there are so many people who are so inhuman that even during that time they were not ready to let go of their rents and all. They were troubling the people that if you all don't have money, you all can just leave the houses and all. So what I started doing afterwards in April and May, we started making this colorful mask because we have all this fabric bits, right? So it used to look colorful. I started posting it on my Facebook, Instagram and all, and people started liking them, and I used to sell it as low as 30 rupees per mask, and then people used to buy. So whatever money we used to get from that also we started giving giving it to the laborers, to the poor people, so that it can help them in some way in buying stuff, their necessity, in paying rents and whatever requirement is there. We did, like, there were people, like, there were houses like from Whitefield and all. They used to reach me that we have 300-400 people stuck here who are securities, who are this caretakers, and who are cleaners and all. They are stuck in the apartment. We don't have facilities, we don't have masks. And then I used to post it on my Facebook, I used to go to my Instagram, that are there people who are ready to help me, who have the permit, who can come to my house and collect this mask and give it to them. And that's how there were many people who came ahead and they helped, like the COVID warriors, or you can say the people who had the permit and all that. They used to come and they used to help me. They used to come in the middle of the night at 11 o'clock, and they used to collect the mask, and they used to go early morning, we used to send it to villages and all. I used to come to the office, and my apartment people and everybody used to get worried that this female is going to her manufacturing unit and she has so much of staffs and all that. That was again one more concern.
Yes.
So, and somehow we managed to pull through that time. We manufactured around 50,000 masks in that March, April and May. And later, after May, yes, then there were a lot of help from the government and everybody. All the rules started relaxing. They started giving permission. But initially it was very difficult, even to source material, even to pack them and everything, So somehow we tried to give it to everybody who reached us. Even now, whoever reaches us, we are trying to help them.
Absolutely, Reshma. In fact, let's take a look at your story as well. In fact, like Reshma was pointing out, masks was a big struggle during the initial days of the lockdown. Reshma is a Bengaluru-based fashion designer. She made masks, supplied it to the needy as well. Take a look at her story.
The year 2020 was hard on all of us, but it did teach us one thing, and that was to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. Now, while many of us did that, there were several Good Samaritans out there who went an extra mile in order to ensure that those people who couldn't fend for themselves or those who couldn't take care of themselves managed to do so. But we're bringing to you the story of Reshma Cooney, a designer who's designed trendy masks and distributed it to the needy at the crisis hour in order to ensure that they took care of themselves.
Reshma Cooney is a fashion designer by profession. Her clientele ranges from Bollywood biggies to corporate titans. Much like the other establishments, she too had to shut shop during lockdown. She realized that a lot of workers didn't have a choice to sit at home, for they had to brave the virus and go to work every day. That's when Reshma decided to do something for them. After securing adequate permissions from the government, she opened her boutique and converted it to a mask manufacturing unit. Instead of throwing the leftover fabric from stitched clothes, she decided to make masks out of them.
During the lockdown, there were no masks available in the market. So what we did, we kept our workshop open. We took special permission from the government, and only 2 tailors were working that time. And we manufactured masks like whole 3 months. We distributed it among the vegetable vendors and the security guard, orphanage, you name it. I think I have given it mostly to the entire Bangalore, I feel.
Today, there are hundreds of people who have benefited from her efforts.
ना मेरा बेटी सरकामेबल नहीं, कभी भी मना नहीं करती. बहुत लॉकडाउन में जब सबसे बहुत तकलीफ आ गया. बच्चा लोग का ये करने का सभी. अभी हम लोग उम्र में क्या है, हमारा भी ज़िंदगी है, बच्चा लोग को देखना वही ऐसा. उसके लिए मैडम का पास आया था, कभी भी हेल्प नहीं पूछा था, नहीं दिएगा उसके ऐसा. रमज़ान में राशन दिलाता वो, सभी भी करता वो.
For Reshma, saying no was not an option. She wanted to distribute her masks to as many people as possible.
I have made sure that whoever comes to help, like whoever asks for the mask, somehow we were tied up with some people who had this government permits, who can drive and go. So we were sending masks on bike to apartments, and we were sending masks on bike to the orphanage and everything. So it felt very great because everywhere people were just liking it. And the idea was not to feel great, I really wanted to help the people. Then wasting, because that 1 month of lockdown and those initial 3 months were difficult for everyone.
A huge shout out to our Good Samaritans who help people tide through these trying times.
That was Reshma's story, but Dashmi, I want to come to you here and talk to you specifically about what it was like during that time, in that you were traveling so many hundreds of kilometers. How much did you really travel on an everyday basis, and how long did that actually continue in terms of going out there and helping those who needed it?
I used to travel a long time, from morning to evening I used to ride. So again 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock I used to get it will be a problem for me. So that's why I used to ride back within 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and I used to maintain my speed also. So this was a ride, and sometimes it's a summer ride, it will be very difficult. Obviously all the time sitting on the bike, I too feel tired.
Yes, absolutely, Dashmi. I can completely imagine that. But I'm afraid we're out of time. I'd really like to thank all of you for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show and hearing your stories. At least it's given me so much inspiration going into the new year. So thank you so much for being on this very special show. The year 2020 is a year that's going to remain etched in our memories. It's been a year that's changed our lives, changed us in so many ways. It was a year of unprecedented challenges and hardships that were faced by so many. But it's also a year that's taught us to be grateful, a year that has shown us, as we just saw, that if we come together and help each other, we can overcome the odds. We brought you the stories of 5 such unsung heroes, but there are so many more who went that extra mile to help those in need. These are the kind of stories that give us hope and inspire us. So here's a wish that we're able to take all this inspiration and hope that we saw in 2020, not just into the new year, but for several years to come. Thank you for watching.